else. We've got the leader of Sea of Tranquility here. We got Mr. Pete Pardo, and we've got the whole crew. We even got David here from Sirius XM Radio tonight. So Pete is going to introduce everyone, and we're going to tell you our top 3 Judas Priest albums. That's tonight's assignment. Pete just gave it to me a little bit. So the top 3 albums that you would have if that's all you could own, right? So welcome to the stage, Pete Pardo.
What's up, Middletown? You guys ready for a night of metal tonight? British Steel is playing in just a little bit, so thank you all for coming out here tonight. We're waiting for Chris Allo. Where is Chris Allo? Where's Chris Allo?
Where's Chris Allo? He doesn't have a seat.
I'll give up my.
All right, let me introduce the crew here. I'm gonna walk down here. All right, so let me see who we got here. All right, all the way from Pennsylvania, Craig Kaminsky. You know him from the Hudson Valley Squares and the Monsters Den. Sitting right next to him is Count Ralphus himself, Ralph Tambora, also from Hudson Valley Squares and Monsters Den. We got Rob Lasante from Hudson Valley Squares. Steve Keeler, owner of Rock Fantasy. Ryan Scow is in the house. Karen La Preziosa is here. He just got off tour to come hang out with all of you tonight. Mr. TSO and Sabotage, Chris Caffrey. And we got a very special guest tonight. We got any wrestling fans in the house? We got the biggest loudmouth in pro wrestling today, the host of Sirius XM's Busted Open Radio, Mr. Dave LaGreca. And Chris Allo is still not here. All right, so we'll get going without him. So I've asked everybody on the panel to think if they were stuck on a desert island and they could only bring 3 Judas Priest albums with them to listen to for the rest of eternity, which 3 would they bring? Craig, you're up first. And also, you know how you would listen to these albums. If you had a generator that will last forever, and you could bring a turntable, a CD player, or like an MP3 player that will never die, how would you listen to those 3 Judas Priest albums?
Okay, I'll take the MP3 player that never dies, and I would pick Sin After Sin, Stained Glass, and Killing Machine. Those are my 3 picks for my personal favorites if I were stuck on a desert island. And I would use Nostradamus to burn for heat.
Shit, I had no time to think about this. I found out the topic right as I walked in. But yeah, Stained Glass is definitely one of them. I have to go Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith just because they're the ones that I found when I was a little kid and made me fall in love with them, and then I went backwards and got everything. But yeah, I would go with vinyl.
For me, it's Stained Glass was the first album that I got into Priest with. When I heard Beyond the Realms of Death, that was it. I became an instant Priest fan. And then, of course, honorable mention will be Unleashed in the East, but it's really a live album. The other album for me is going to be definitely Defenders of the Faith. That's another great album. Saw that tour when they ripped up the seats at the Madison Square Garden. And then my favorite all over for metal is Screaming for Vengeance, which is probably my favorite Priest album ever. I mean, they even had the Hellion Army, you know, I just love that album. I never get tired of it. I still listen to it regularly. So, long live Priest.
After that, Rob, I believe you are the devil's child. Well, anyhow, so it's my turn to pick. My number 1 album would be Stained Glass. My number 2, and yeah, it's gonna be vinyl. I mean, I don't know, unless we have only an 8-track player on the island, you know. And we're gonna have to get a solar panel and bring that with us so we can have electricity. So my second favorite album from them will be Sin After Sin. And my third favorite album from them, I'm gonna shake it up tonight, and I'm going with Painkiller, because they brought them back to being heavy after some bad 80s mistakes of them covering like Johnny Be Good and whatnot. So those are my 3, and I'm going with 8-track tapes because they're going to be easy to carry to the desert island, and and we're gonna have a solar panel. And next in line is this guy that's sitting in front of me, Mr. Metal himself, Mr. Destroyer 666, Ryan Scow. Give it up.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the warm welcome. So my first one would be the first Judas Priest album I ever heard, Screaming for Vengeance. When I was 16. Can't beat it. Every song's a fucking killer. Number 2, Sin After Sin. And number 3 and number 1 would be Stay in Class. Best album they ever did. Honorable mention on Unleashed in the East. Best live album ever, but wanted to do studio stuff here. And next up, it's Karen.
Thank you, dear. Hello. Okay, so this is really hard, and I was gonna do a killer and pick 5, but I realized that's cheating. So what I'm gonna do is Stay in Class is number 1. That seems to be the consensus around here. Everyone seems to like that as number 1. This number 2 is so difficult. Sin After Sin, or Sad Wings of Destiny, or but I'm gonna go with Sin After Sin, and then British Steel. I've been really into it lately. I was telling Ryan, I couldn't believe it. It's not out of my head, so I'm gonna go with British Steel. Such a great record, and Ryan, the name of that song, I'm too drunk to remember. Rapid Fire, that's right. I was in Brooklyn not too long ago, went to go see Caligula, and the DJ, Alex, played Rapid Fire. It was super loud, everybody was feeling it, and I was like, damn, it's good to hear this album again. It's been way too long. And ever since that night, I've just been diving into it. So that's it. Stay in Class, Sin After Sin, and British Steel.
All right, this is kind of tough, so I'm gonna be the rebel that does live records, because you can have live records on vinyl. No, it isn't a cop out. I'll explain why. First of all, Unleashed in the East was the first Priest record I ever heard. I bought it the day after I saw Priest open for Kiss, and I saw that Flying V, and that record has got to be probably the most badass heavy metal record ever, whether it's live or not. So I'm going there. And then I'm gonna give an honorable mention and pick Live in London, just because everybody always cuts down Ripper, and that record has all of my favorite Priest songs on it, and if you listen to Ripper sing on that record, it's just great. So I'm giving that as my number 2 when I say I'm picking live records. Now I'm gonna pick a third one that people really haven't picked, but I just really like it. There was the addition of Hellbent for Leather that was Killing Machine with the bonus tracks. All the songs that were on that together is probably the one I would take. It's hard. I was kind of like torn between Sad Wings, that one, and Screaming for Vengeance, but I'm gonna pick Killing Machine.
I think we finally got Chris Allo. I think he was able to get out of the bathroom. Somebody locked him in. So, Chris, at any point, if you want to, can you come to the stage, please, Chris? We only started the show 20 minutes ago, for crying out loud.
Bring some chicken wings.
Dear God. It's unbelievable. Now, I will say this. I think the 3 picks that you had were great picks, but I do think it's a bit of a cop-out to pick live albums.
3 records that weren't live, too. If you heard, my honorable mentions have Sad Wings of Destiny and Scream for Vengeance. So if I had to pick 3 studios, they were there, but I threw Unleashed in the East and Live in London in. So it's kind of a 5-3.
So, obviously, all right, because you're a star, you don't need to follow the rules. All right, so, all right, I have my 3. So, since we're seeing British Steel tonight, that's the band that's playing, I figure, I don't know, maybe I'll pick British Steel. Nobody seems to want to pick that one. So, sorry, my apologies. Defenders of the Faith. I mean, maybe one of their heaviest albums, The Sentinel. The Sentinel, one of their best songs. And then for me, the number 1 Judas Priest album, in my opinion, Sad Wings of Destiny, Victim of Changes, The Ripper. I mean, just an amazing album. So Pete, those are my 3. Thank you, man.
Let's give it up for Dave LaGreca. Mr. Allo finally showed up. Thank you, sir.
Sorry I'm late. I was trying to get a beer for Duke. The Duke Star. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love Middletown. I told the story before, I think on the show. 1988, my dad's like, hey, you want to go see Judas Priest? They're playing in Middletown. I was like, that's crazy. He takes me to the show. I was a 17-year-old kid, and I'm wearing my battle vest, which had a creator patch. and this dude comes running after me, and he's like, "Hey, you like Creator? You must like good music." And I'm like, "I guess." So he's like, "I got a record store down the road. It's called Rock Fantasy. You should come check it out." And that was in 1988, and I've been friends with Steve ever since. So it's super cool to be in Middletown. But all right, what is this? This is a Desert Island, Judas Priest albums, and in the tradition of the mighty Rich Catino, who couldn't be here, I'm totally pulling a Catino. Even though I love Judas Priest, I'm going off track here. So if I was stuck on a desert island and I had to bring 3 Judas Priest records, even though I love Judas Priest, maybe I might be cold, and so that's why I'm pulling a Catino, and I might need to light a fire. So I would bring Nostradamus, Ram It Down, and Demolition, and I would break out the CDs to get the inlay cases, and I'd burn those fuckers so I could throw some wood on it and start a fire, because those records suck. Even though I love Judas Priest, I hate those records. That's my review.
Tell them about your Nostradamus.
All right, real quick, yeah, this was 2008, I guess, and I was writing for Circus Magazine and Pit Magazine and Metal Maniacs, so I got the invite to hear Nostradamus. They were like, if you want to interview Judas Priest, you have to hear the record first, but we cannot send you any files for security reasons, so you got to come to our offices in New York City, and we'll put you in a room and we'll play Nostradamus for you. You can take notes. I had to check in my cell phone because they were afraid I could record it and then leak it to the internet. So I go there, and the publicist is like, "You're gonna love this record, man. It's fucking amazing." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So they put me in this room, and they put on disc 1 of Nostradamus. And I sit through the whole thing. It feels like it's 5 hours long, but it's only disc 1. And listen, I'm a huge Priest fan, but I'm like, this is fucking garbage. Like, this is like the worst Priest trying to do a rock opera, and it's awful. And then the guy comes in after disc 1, he's like, "It's great, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is so good." He's like, "Wait to hear disc 2, it's even better." And he put on disc 2, and it was the same shit, and I fucking hated it. Listen, I got the Judas Priest interview. I kind of lied, and I was like, well, I said, well, it's Priest going in a different direction, blah, blah, blah. But listen, I love Priest. I hate that record, but I still have 3 copies of Nostradamus, and I still saw Priest 5 times on the Nostradamus tour. And that's my Judas Priest story.
Dave, what do you think on a scale of 0 to 5 as a promo goes? How does that go?
Hey Chris, I'm gonna give you a lot of credit. Once again, didn't follow the rules, all right, completely. Pete Pardo spent a lot of time to come up with the theme for today's show, and he completely shit all over it. But, as Pete asked, you would make a great promo in a wrestling ring. So congratulations, Chris Allo. Chris Allo, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so my 3 favorites, I'm gonna go with the triple S's. Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, and Stained Class. That's it, right there. So, what are your 3 Desert Island discs for Judas Priest? Who wants to talk tonight? By a show of hands. Don't be shy. All right, what's your name?
I'm Nick.
Your favorite 3?
My number 1, Stained Class for sure. Number 2, Defenders. And number 3 is either between British Steel or Screamin'. Screamin' for Vengeance.
Both good choices. Nice. Anybody else? Dun, dun, dun. Nobody? We have no brave people in the audience. Here we got one over here. All right, here we go. What's your name?
John.
John, your favorite 3 Judas Priest albums?
I would probably go with Sin After Sin, Unleashed in the East, No to Live album, I love it, and Stained Class.
Awesome. Legendary albums. Legendary albums. Anybody else? That's it. All right, you guys ready to hear some music? Yeah, exactly. All right, so since you're going to play Judas Priest music for us tonight, what are your 3 favorites?
Well, we changed the name of the band to Nostradamus. Sorry, you guys didn't get the memo, but I gotta say British Steel because we're named after it. Screaming for Vengeance and Painkiller. That's mine.
Very cool. Very cool. So you guys are coming on a little bit. So everybody go help yourself at the bar. There's food here, and we'll be having British Steel coming on stage and kick your ass in just a little bit. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and let's give a warm round of applause to the Hudson Valley Squares. We are on YouTube every other Monday night. Sea of Tranquility on YouTube. Thank you guys. Back to Steve Keeler.
And Judas Priest, British.